Coming out now. So we've already cleaned it and dried it in the sun. And now this next step is to parch it using what's called a treaty kettle. I suppose I started when I was 6 or 7 years old, watching the old people do it, helping out in the little ways that I could. It's coming out now. Dump it right in, huh? So the next stage is to dance on it. She's going to dance on the rice to grind the hulls. The wild rice is such a big part of our life. It's used in a lot of ceremonies. It's used as all the funerals and feasts that we go to every year. It's an integral part of our culture. It's a part of our identity. The way it works is the grains are heavier than the hulls, so they separate themselves. I'd like to say I invented this, but it came down through the generations. Every year, the Anishinaabe make wild rice, and they have since I can remember. And I know from the old stories that they depended on this as a food source for a long time. I like being connected to the generations that have made rice before me. And I like to teach what I've learned. It's my obligation to teach what I know. So my children and my grandchildren are learning. I teach him because somebody took the time to teach me. And so now he'll have something to teach his children and his grandchildren. According to the old stories, the Anishinaabe would migrate until we came to where food grew on the water. And that to me seems to be talking about wild rice.
(1,000) Duluth fifth grade students received hands-on lessons about forest management and ecology. Organizers say they want students to have a better understanding of the environment we live in.
Give them a broad understanding of how the natural world works, and also that we do have a need for taking products out, but we also do it in an environmentally sound way.
Besides the sawmill, students learned about wildlife and how to fight forest fires. This volunteer talked about what it was like to fight fires out west. He also showed students what they wear and why.
I wear a special jacket and goggles so the sparks won't get in your eyes and it'll burn your eyes. And you're supposed to wear a helmet.
Students also learned about something that's plentiful in our nation's forest: insects.
By the lake where you were studying some insects from the water, I really like the dragonfly larvae and the bugs.
Why is that?
I'm a bug kind of guy. I like bugs.
Students also found out how the inside of a pine cone can generate tree growth.
Well, you try and force it with your hands, and then you just pick at the little things.
It's this hands-on experience that teachers say students will remember for years to come.
Well, because we can be out in the nature and we don't have to be cooped up in a classroom that's kind of hot.
No homework.
In Duluth, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
Read it again.
More than 1/4 of ninth graders in Minnesota failed the state's basic writing skills test. But at the same time, Minnesota teachers have received the highest grade in a national ranking. So why are ninth grade students lagging behind if teachers rate so high? And how does the Northland compare to the state's findings? Duluth School Superintendent Mark Miles says the test showed teachers may be more qualified and more prepared to teach, but it did not measure their effectiveness. He says that Duluth did not take part in this writing test, but if they did,
I would expect that we would be doing somewhat worse than the state at large. Everybody isn't doing enough. We need stronger families, and we need stronger public school systems. So I think that all of us working together need to do better.
the school board agrees. Last week, they unanimously passed a resolution to increase standards. It states, quote, "We must raise standards and hold everyone, including students, teachers, principals, and parents, more accountable with recognition that schools cannot do the job alone." One high school teacher agrees.
Okay, and what's the sentence that you wrote for that?
Mary Kay Cannonen has been teaching English for 18 years at Denfeld High School for 11. Cannonen has seen her share of students that graduate high school without the proper skills. She also says these tests that determine how prepared ninth graders will be for graduation are misleading.
They have 3 full school years in order to reach that competency. Yes, we want them to go far beyond it. Of course, we do. But it is a little bit unfair to be critical of schools and students that they have not yet reached a goal that we do not yet expect them to reach for another 3 years.
But Cannonen says even this year she has seen ninth graders who are not academically prepared.
You try your best in a class of 30 to assess what skills your class as a whole has and what skills individual students have, and you try to give those students enough help so they can catch up, knowing realistically that some of them will not.
She says to improve standards, it needs to start in the home. Parents need to get involved with their kids' education.
Robbie, would you read what you have for...
In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
If you didn't get a good sentence written down, you could use Robbie's on your worksheet so that you would have something to study for.
Leave it to the Weather Service to pick a day with great weather for their open house, dedicating their new facility in Duluth.
We're glad that you took a portion out of your Saturday to come here. Just so happens that we had a little break in the weather through no mistake.
The cornerstone of the new Weather Service facility is the WSR-88D, commonly known as a Doppler radar.
We have been able to see things on radar features such as echoes and wind patterns in the clouds that we could only dream about before. So it's going to improve it by giving us more detail, giving us a lot greater information at a farther distance so we can see storms coming earlier.
The new Doppler radar replaces a 1974 model, and the improvement in accuracy has not gone unnoticed by the public.
Over the past year or so, there's been more messages crossing my TV talking about weather forecasts and things that are happening. Is that true? And that's because of the high tech that's going on here.
Of course, no open house and dedication is complete without a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Well, the ambassadors of the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce are here to commend the Weather Service on the opening of this new office. We think it's a great thing. It will enhance their ability to forecast the weather and possibly even save lives.
Helping to save lives is something the Duluth branch of the National Weather Service has been doing for 126 years. And if Chief Meteorologist Sanders has his way, they'll be doing it for at least 126 more. At the National Weather Service in Duluth, I'm meteorologist Dave Anderson from the Channel 6 Weather Center.
Officials will be removing all 86 barrels found on the surface, including the 5 that were found hazardous. 2 of the barrels were found to contain a lead substance, 2 others contain an acid-like compound, and 1 a sulfide chemical. This concerns residents living nearby the landfill. Cloquet City officials say neighbors should not be worried.
At this point, we're not concerned with any casual contact from the areas and neighboring properties.
But the chemicals are dangerous enough to be a hazard to the community. If they come in contact with some of these chemicals, there may be problems.
They're going to be removing some of the soil, thin layer of soil, and sampling the remaining soil to characterize the contamination in the soil, if there is any.
In fact, not only could the soil be contaminated, but the water supply could be too. Tests have not been conducted, but will be soon.
Mr. Thompson, come and hear.
The mine itself is illegal. The transport of acid is unsafe, and we're here to express our deep concern for the long-term viability. In 1842,
It smells gross and looks worse. Gooey tar oozes up in pockets through the soil and bubbles up in the water. 15 years ago, the state declared this area a Superfund site. Companies that made pig iron and tar from the 1920s through the 60s left massive hazardous contamination when they shut down. Now a comprehensive effort is underway to reclaim the land.
The cleanup is being done in 3 phases. The first was to dig up the worst of the contaminated soil and truck it to a hazardous landfill. The second stage, which you can see going on behind me here, is to dig up almost 50,000 tons of contaminated soil and burn it on site.
We had some tar residues that were in this area. Now they've been excavated out of here, and those residues will also end up in the burner.
Contaminants are burned off, and the soil is cooled and then stockpiled for testing. And once it's tested to make sure it meets the cleanup goals, it's put back into the excavated area.
The third phase is the most difficult. Pollution experts are trying to figure out how to clean up the polluted water. Stryker Bay, on which Hallett Dock sits, is full of cancer-causing chemicals called PAHs. A committee has been formed to decide the safest and most efficient cleanup method. People who live on the bay have been invited to make suggestions.
It's really been a joint effort by the responsible parties as well as the Pollution Control Agency to involve the neighborhood in the whole process.
There are several options being suggested for cleaning up Stryker Bay. The most drastic would be to fill in entire sections. Another more popular option would be to dredge up the tarry bottom and burn it. The average depth of contamination is to 1 foot.
But neither my family or any of my children are allowed to swim in it at the present time.
The companies responsible for the contamination are paying for the cleanup. Spokespeople say they hope to be finished with Phase 2 by early winter and begin work on the polluted bay by early 1998. At Hallett Dock in Duluth, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Backhoes, trucks, and heavy equipment excavates and treats tons of dirt here on this land beside the Hallett Docks. Where once pollution reigned, now there is hope that over 100 acres of real estate will be used for lucrative industry. Frank Hallepap, who manages the property, says it should fit an industrial employer's needs.
I think it's an excellent location, and it's good property from a redevelopment standpoint. So I think it's going to be acceptable and desirable.
It's been a long haul to make this property fit for habitation. For some 50 years, industry polluted the soil and water without regard for the future. That pollution has taken years to clean up, but soon it will be ready to house new development.
It's kind of a long-term thing because about half of it is clean and ready to build on. The second part of it, or Phase 2, is being cleaned up right now and will be available probably next summer.
Phase 1 is the green section, which is up for sale now. This uncontaminated area is along Wasika Road. Phase 2, the yellow area, is contaminated with tar residues, but it should be cleaned up and ready for sale in 2 years. Halipot is optimistic parts of the land will be sold within the year.
We've got 3 or 4 people that we're working with at the moment. We don't have any contracts in place at the moment.
In Duluth, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
6 months.
Are you after?
Gang activity is growing across the country and here in the Northland, too. Police say we can begin to get an upper hand on the gangs and their criminal activity by knowing more about them.
You have groups and then you have gangs. Gangs are groups of individuals that do things illegally.
And they drive by here, almost hit my 2 children, then point guns at them. My 2 daughters, my 3-year-old, my 8-year-old here, point guns at them and say, "What's up, punk?"
Francine says she and her family feel the direct effect of gang violence in her neighborhood. Here are some signs police say to look for if you suspect someone you know is in a gang. These are only guidelines, and all behaviors need to be looked at as a whole, not individually. Certain colors or the way people wear colors might indicate they are in a gang. Types of clothing such as baggy clothes, or if they are flashing gang signs or symbols. And the biggest indicator of gang activity is gang graffiti in a community. This is most often seen on walls, sides of buildings, parks, or other public places.
Sometimes it's used to mark a certain area. Sometimes it's used to communicate amongst each other. Sometimes it's used to communicate to other gangs.
Police say young people might join gangs for a number of reasons.
They may or may not have anyone at home, and the gang offers them a sense of belonging. Companionship, sometimes they see it as a source of excitement or it's fun. Status, that's an attention getter, they belong to a certain group. Sometimes it's financial gain, depending on whether or not they're dealing in drugs or stolen property.
Community leaders say the Northland offers many positive programs to get kids involved in their neighborhoods and steer clear of gangs. Some of those include teen drop-in centers, sports teams, or music groups. In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
Put this on. Sometimes it's kind of hard to hear me too, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm at that tank. Okay, you hear that? It's going to make a loud noise, okay? So don't be afraid. Down like this. Get down on the ground like this and roll back and forth and get that fire out, okay? That's how you do it, okay?
A mile a minute and now they're overwhelmed.
We'll wait for...
I got one of those.
Good. Everyone should have one of these outside their bedroom. Every house should have. Are they light? They're kind of heavy. Now, who thinks they're strong too? Okay, pick up this helmet. Is that heavy? Yeah.
Based on economics. It is our security, it is our safety.
That we cannot just define an individual.
everything was gone. It's, paint cans were exploding. Other types of pressurized containers were popping. I'm not sure what it was. There wasn't much left to look at.
That's how fire officials and nearby residents describe a fire that broke out at Hedstrom Lumber retail yard early Monday morning.
Traveling down into Grand Marais, it dominated the landscape, just tremendous wall of flame. And
over 12 hours later, the fire still crackles and burns. Trucks melted, the building structure collapsed to the ground, and this lumber could burn and smolder for hours more. The fire broke out around 1 o'clock in the morning. 6 fire departments, including Grand Marais, responded to the blaze. It took them 10 hours to contain the fire, and firefighters finally decided to let it burn out on its own.
Probably one of the hottest fires I think I've ever been close to. Trucks got hot sitting clear out on the highway.
Firefighters think the blaze started in the east end of the retail yard. The loss is estimated at more than $1 million. But there's a greater loss, the loss of jobs in the company.
We have staff of 15 there. We're concerned about our employees, also about our community, the contractors, the home builders, people building homes. We're the major supplier in this area, and certainly, have their concerns in our hearts.
Luckily, nobody was injured in the fire. The cause is unknown and under investigation. In Grand Marais, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
Talk to Jill right here.
Oh, I think it's just an opportunity to spend a little bit more time in a little bit more intimate setting, and it's a way for a lot of sort of the local DFLers and activists have been working long and hard over the many years. Gives them an opportunity to spend a little bit extra time with the Vice President.
This is done in less than a minute or less? Whew. I'm a teacher, you know? Okay.
Mr. Wellstone. That we have pointed out that Senator Wellstone is the furthest left of any senator in the United States Senate.
And I can see why they wouldn't. You know, between my two opponents, they accumulated 86% of our $5.2 trillion debt while they were in power. And I wish they wouldn't take it. I mean, about 2/3 of it Rudy and about 1/3 Paul during the 18 years they were there. And I'm glad they won't take it because they didn't do their job before.
I am a senator for working families in Minnesota, always have been, always will be. Thank you, Northern Minnesota. Thank you.
This is not the end. It is the beginning. It is a new era, and we are going to continue to make Duluth, northeastern Minnesota, a home for aviation and a center for future development of aviation in North America.
We must remember that it isn't just this building, it isn't just this aircraft, that's a small part of it. What's really happening here are the lives of the 350 jobs, and after that many more jobs.
Amidst rocky shoreline and immense crashing waves, the Grandpa Woo, a Lake Superior tour boat out of Beaver Bay, sits waiting out its future and the North Shore's unpredictable, often violent weather. Just 24 hours before these pictures were taken, the boat's two-person crew was aboard the dock vessel at Grand Portage Harbor doing maintenance when gale-force winds blew the boat loose, setting it and her crew adrift into the frigid lake without power.
The main thing on our mind was trying to get the Grandpa Woo back to a good anchor, or to get the mooring to hold. And of course, the other thing as we drifted farther out was to see if we could get a hold of any other vessel in the area to take a tow.
The Woo's captain, Dana Colliers, and his first mate did finally spot that vessel. The 1,000-foot Walter J. McCarthy was passing by fully loaded with coal. But Captain Collier had to wait until they were in deeper water before a tow-in would work. Meanwhile, the weather was getting worse.
They were very high seas, and I'm estimating we were in about 50 to 55 knot winds. It's very serious, and had we been on board any other vessel, it would have been a very disconcerting very exciting ride.
But then, just as everything seemed to be on track with both vessels heading safely into Thunder Bay, the Woo, with its crew still aboard, found itself in a familiar spot, adrift, again, surrounded by 70-mile-per-hour winds and 15-foot waves. That's when tugboat Glenada, watching from a few miles away, came to the rescue.
Once the wind started and the water started hitting the deck, it was freezing. It was like a skating rink. My biggest concern was, like I say, for my crew and also for the people aboard the Grandpa Woo.
After about 2 hours of trying to secure a tow line, it was time to forget about the Woo and worry about saving lives. Both Captain Collier and his first mate jumped from the Woo onto the Glenada safely.
I would imagine that the cumulative adrenaline of all the people involved was enough to run Thunder Bay for about a week.
The Woo is still taking a beating against the cliffs. The U.S. Coast Guard is assessing its damage. They hope to try and salvage it as early as tomorrow, of course, weather permitting. As for Grandpa's crew, they are safe in Thunder Bay tonight, anxious for a warm night's sleep. In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Several pro-motorized rallies were held in Ely back in the 60s and 70s, but now Ely is host to the first ever pro-wilderness rally.
Of us to enjoy. That's better understood now, and there's much greater support for wilderness now than there was 30 years ago.
Senator Nelson is credited for founding Earth Day. In the past, Ely was known for its support of mechanized boundary waters. But Becky, who grew up in Ely, says that's no longer true.
It started off as canoe country in the 20th century. We had the introduction of motors. Motors have died away, and it's once again become even a stronger canoe country.
The Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness is a grassroots organization that was formed this past June. Organizers say this rally gives Northlanders a chance to celebrate their wilderness.
The fact that we have such an incredible wilderness outside of our doors, we're celebrating the fact that that's there and that it exists.
Leah expects close to 200 people to attend. The rally is also auctioning off 2 canoes, which are covered with signatures by people who support a pro-wilderness boundary waters. Outfitter Paul Shirky is among them.
It's already the most heavily motorized wilderness in the country, and it's a national treasure and a mainstay of our economy, and we believe we should leave well enough alone. So we're hoping to generate more support locally for that.
Meanwhile, mediation talks continue about the boundary waters. Rally organizers say this won't be the last pro-wilderness rally. In Ely, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
We started out eventually with the office area. Collapsed duct was a problem. Contaminated air systems, meaning pneumatic with oil in the systems from a bad air compressor. plugged reheat coils, leaky reheat valves that actually bring heat into the classrooms that were leaking, bringing heat continuously.
That defeat as well as victory shakes the soul and lets the glory out. That was my experience once before, and that will be my experience now, that I have my family. You're not bored of it, are you? Well, we can adopt her. And my wife and my sons, they're all here tonight except my number 3 son, who has the stomach flu, which he caught from the grandchildren. But nevertheless, they're all around me, and we love Minnesota, and so that we're going to be just fine back here. And the glory will come out. And there is, as one door closes in life, another one opens. And so that will be my experience once again. So I congratulate Paul Wellstone and his team and his family. Thank you very, very much. Nice trying, Mom. By their resolve and by their involvement, and I say to all of you,
it does scare you because the fact of, you know, you see more violence today. You know, it's something like that. Next time it's, you know, something major, something real, you know.
Ron Tinsley knew something was going on this afternoon as he left in his lunch hour. He saw the fire trucks and police cars blocking off streets and rerouting traffic. He also saw this mysterious box.
Somehow Gold Cross Ambulance, whose main office is right here on the corner, became alerted to the fact, came down and looked at it. They also thought it was suspicious and called us. We took a look at the package, the way it was addressed, and called in some help.
This is the note that was attached to the package. It is addressed to the Inspector General to be opened at Christmas. It reads, quote, from all the families and relatives of the victims of the New York airline tragedy. That's when a bomb squad based out of Duluth Air National Guard was called in for help.
Fire in the hole!
The squad safely blew up the package to find out what was inside. It turns out just some papers and a wallet. The suspect was later taken into police custody. Witnesses like Angel Padilla say, regardless, today's events were still pretty frightening.
What are all your neighbors saying? Are they pretty scared and wondering what's going on?
That's why nobody comes out. Everybody's scared to come out.
Deer hunters were in full force this morning, hoping to cross paths with the trophy deer. Everyone searched, but not everyone found. Some hunters didn't see any deer or any wildlife at all.
And we haven't seen anything. We're talking not even any wildlife, rabbits, nothing. Heard squirrels in the trees, but that's about it.
Haven't seen much anything, no tracks or anything. It's just been pretty quiet.
Wildlife experts predicted that hunters would see few deer this year because of last year's harsh winter. Many hunters waited patiently in the cold without much luck, but a few struck gold. Today was the first time for Ronald Carl, and he says there's nothing like it in the world.
I don't know how to describe it. It's one of the most wonderful things I've ever felt. Just to watch it, to feel it, it's just weird.
At about 10 this morning, 2 deer were registered at Chalstrom's, and 3 more were in line.
Yeah, I do. I think this is going to be a real good opener, even though the DNR has figured the numbers would be down.
Although most area hunters haven't had much luck on this opening day, there is still 2 more weeks to hunt. Angela Wang, reporting for Channel 6 News. The snow and sleet of yesterday mixed with the rain of today made a combination of ice, slush, and just plain yuck. Judy Berg was on her way to school when her car started to slide down the hill. So she decided to park her car and take the bus. Try as she might, she was unable to get her car parked. At first, she wondered what she should do.
What to do? What should I do? Oh, definitely, I wanted to scream. I was definitely looking for help to come and help me.
And fortunately, helping hands did come her way.
We're out playing golf on Monday, and now we're snowblowing and shoveling here.
All around the area, Northlanders were shoveling snow, chipping away at the ice, sliding down the road, and digging out cars.
I've been digging out other people quite a bit, so you get used to it. It's part of life in Duluth.
Even though some of the Northlanders are having trouble with the weather, others are taking advantage of it by hitting the slopes.
Well, we got a couple of hundred people out here. The enthusiasts are out. The snow is great, a little difficult to see. The rain could dampen someone's spirits, but doesn't seem to be affecting the people that are out here.
And the snowboarders agree. They say they're a little wetter than usual, but that doesn't bother them at all.
It's been pretty good except for the rain. Yeah. I mean, you go just as fast in the rain, maybe a little faster, you know. But when you're snowboarding for over 8 hours, I mean, you get wet and cold, and I mean, it's fun out here. It's the first day of the year, and I don't really care if I was sick or not, I'd still go.
It's all been fine. It's pretty much the same as it always has been, except for you're wet. It's great. It's awesome. First day and stuff. It's awesome.
At Spirit Mountain, 3 of the 23 runs are open. With weather permitting, they'll all be open soon. Angela Wang, Channel 6 News.
It's going to benefit the entire community. All the food that we are collecting here at the Bryan Elementary School will go to benefit the Northwest Community Action Emergency Food Pantry in Superior.
we're going to be lighting the tree every night in memory of someone. It costs about $25 a night to light the tree. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is people, for instance, my mother is going to purchase one night's lighting in memory of my brother Joe, who died last year.
I've heard of jumping on a bandwagon, but this? The Paw Paw Packer Porta Potty or the Pentium PP or give or take a P? Please! This dapper crapper is the brainchild of Ralph and Ruth Ferguson, who used their heads to design their head.
This started out as a gag gift, and it got away from us a little bit. We got TVs, we got electric corn cobs for them, with refills.
There's a urinal in the back, too.
Yeah, there's
Just in case they don't want to go in and get the outdoor feeling?
in case it's filled up.
Could you imagine if these outstanding outhouses became the rage? Imagine having your own bear's bin, or a lion's den, if you will. But for now, there's only this, the Packers Pit.
I don't think they could afford it. It'd be a little expensive.
We've got one padded seat, very good cushioned seat here. There's no better thing in life than having fun. And that's what I'm retired for, to have fun now. So that's...
And his mind is always working.
Personally, I believe in conventional plumbing, so I think about the only thing that deserves to be in this outhouse is this Packer music itself. Mitch Roberts for NBC News.
Most of the costs associated with sampling are associated with sending people out into the field, gathering data, bringing it back to the laboratory and analyzing that data.
And I would like to see us get on to the consideration of those sorts of issues once we resolve this, the question of the portages and everything. I think it'll happen fairly quickly, and I think that we'll all feel better about it.
Two lockups could be built on the Iron Range. The St. Louis County Board has already given the initial approval to build them.
Okay, you step back in there. Next.
Each lockup would temporarily house inmates waiting for court appearances. These two projects would cost taxpayers $5 million. Here's the cost breakdown. The lockup in Virginia would cost $1.5 million. Courthouse improvements would also be included. The Hibbing lockup would cost $3.4 million. That courthouse would also receive upgrades like security improvements. A law enforcement center would also be built. Law enforcement officers say these holding cells are not adequate to serve the courthouses. Inmates are temporarily held here until their court appearances. They are then led down public hallways to the courtrooms.
I think as far as good public safety policy, there needs to be lockup facilities on Iron Range. And as long as there's two courthouses operating, we need a lockup in each one of those courthouses.
What they are worried about is inmates coming into contact with the public, the possibility of harassment, the possibility of escape.
The inmate safety and security as well as the public safety and security is what we're shooting for. All right, gentlemen, one at a time.
Sergeant Lambert transports inmates from Duluth to the Iron Range.
Watch your head getting in.
He would have to move these inmates less if there were lockups in Virginia and Hibbing to hold prisoners for a longer period of time. That saves officer time and taxpayer dollars.
Okay. There may be some savings as far as our transportation costs, okay? Because we're going to be able to lead prisoners up there over a longer period of time.
But many people say these lockups won't save money, but will waste it instead. Opponents are trying to gather 8,000 signatures to reverse the county's decision to build the lockups on the range.
We had so many calls on this issue to our office that it became very clear to us that there was a lot of public concern that this was not prudent spending of taxpayer dollars.
The group has about 2 weeks to collect the signatures needed. If they get enough, voters will get a chance to decide whether the lockups will be built. On the Iron Range, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
No G.I. Joes, no more vicious videos.
These are not your usual Christmas carolers that we see each holiday season. They're a group called People for Peaceful Toys, and they're on a mission to educate parents about what they call violent toys. Toys like guns, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and G.I. Joes.
We're trying to tell parents to avoid buying those toys for kids and instead buy toys that encourage creativity and constructive toys like blocks and building material and all kinds of and learning books and all kinds of stuff like that that are available for kids now.
The group took their message to the streets, caravanning through downtown Duluth and stopping at several stores, but their presence wasn't welcomed at some stores.
Store owner asked us to leave. I don't know, some feeling, I guess, threatened about the toys that they're selling and feeling like we're trying to ruin their business, I guess.
But they were not discouraged. They maneuvered right on to their next stop and continued to promote their cause. One of the toys that the group strongly opposes is this one. It's called Street Sharks. They say it glorifies gangs. Some shoppers passed right by while others stopped for a flyer. Joan Logan says she fully supports this group.
I think violent toys lead to violent behavior. To encourage things that children will play with peacefully is a marvelous idea.
And children differ on how they feel about guns and other so-called violent toys.
I think they're really bad because kids will start getting ideas to start using guns. And someday people are going to get hurt.
They're more fun to play with outside and have wars with and play different games with.
Well, you can't really do much with action figures as you can with guns. Just to have fun with. Not real guns, though.
Angela Wang, Channel 6 News.
Okay, let's go.
Your Kleenex.
I'm not happy with the situation that we're put in with these pedophiles being put into our neighborhoods, and these people seem to be unable to be rehabilitated, and it's very distressing.
I'd be upset that they were on the list because I'd like to know how they got their name and address and whatever else goes on that list. But then if they're not on the list, is that going to give me a false sense of security?
Good afternoon. Topping our news today, names of hundreds of children from throughout the Northland have turned up on a computer list compiled by pedophiles. A New York Times story points the finger at convicted child molester George Chamberlain, who up until a year and a half ago was operating a computer system out of the Lino Lakes Correctional Facility. The list Chamberlain and perhaps others are believed to have compiled may have been sent out on the internet. The Times discovered names of kids from many Northland cities, but 99 of the names were of kids from the small northern valley town of Fertile. Neil Carlson has our story.
Thinking about your family or your daughter or your sons, and you have no control over it. It's just a real scary thing. I don't know what else to say.
From behind prison walls, a dangerous sexual predator may have used cyberspace to lurk behind the shadows of innocent Fertile, Minnesota. 56-year-old George Chamberlain, an inmate at the Lino Lakes Correctional Facility, is believed to have compiled a 56-page list of children, including descriptive information with terms like pageant winner and latchkey kids. Michael Moore's child was on the list.
Anger. Along with the scary feeling, you know, not knowing what to do.
It's believed that while working as a computer programmer in prison, Chamberlain gleaned the names of 99 kids from Fertile from a copy of the Fertile newspaper. But since the list is known to be 7 years old, it's believed that it was not sent out over the internet to child molesters who are on the loose.
I understand there's names in Fargo, you know, there's names in. I've got a couple from Fergus Falls, you know, so you know, they were statewide.
Teachers sent home letters with students today explaining the situation.
Well, it's not really surprising what all you hear going on. Yes, it does make me mad and angry, but it's not all that surprising anymore.
The story is fast becoming national news. It's on the cover of the New York Times, and several national TV news shows are interested.
Sex offender George Chamberlain has been moved to the prison here in Moose Lake.
Trunk or cover them in the back seat. Take valuable items home between shopping sprees and never leave anything of value in your car overnight. Thanksgiving is past and Christmas is less than a month away. It's a time when shoppers leave packages inside their cars as they travel from store to store. This is also the time of the year thieves prowl the parking lots and streets, checking cars, looking for those unprotected packages and valuables. Crime Stopper.
Christ and rose with him to new life, may he now enjoy eternal life. On the day of his baptism, Herbert put on Christ. May
And believe it or not, I started in designing aircraft engines.
Now Jacob Miles spends his day playing with toys.
It's never a dull moment. Very exciting.
Miles, engineer turned toy maker, is the largest manufacturer of ethnic toys in the United States. This year, his invention Soft Stacks is getting the nod, while Sea Bear of the Sea Bear and Jamal cartoon is making his own statement.
Sea Bear's in the house. Our social agenda is just as strong as our economic agenda. So we try and use toys as a vehicle to build self-esteem.
give me a bear hug.
The consumer, whenever they see or hear anything about us, are very, very active.
I think that would be a nice one.
Yeah.
For her.
What's her name?
Miata.
Vicki Treadwell is tapping the cultural toys market.
I had a white Barbie doll. I had the dream house. I had the blonde, curly-haired babies.
However, for her little one, she's looking for a different image. She believes children mimic what they see and hear.
This one, it looks as though they're talking about different professions, careers that people are in, and it looks as though they're showing lots of different colored people. I'm picking up two.
Miles says it's not tough to sell the toys. The real challenge so far has been getting retail outlets to carry the line.
To them, it's new. To them, it's unproven. To them, it's, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. So we have to educate the retailers as well as sell them.
People just.
I'm going to get those bags. And that, we're going to say that the merchants have been just.
Well, you have about 150 pairs here. And assuming that, that's a child per pair, that's 150 kids. This represents probably a third of what we anticipate will be our total program.
Dear Santa, I have been very good this year. I would like sky racers.
This season, kids that don't have the right computer connections have a special reason for visiting the homes of friends that do. St. Nick is now online. He's set up shop on the web so that all good little boys and girls can email their Christmas wishes and get a quick personal response in English or Spanish. The site is sponsored by Bell South, and it's not just for those kids with computers in their homes.
Dear Santa, I am 5 years old. My name is Stefan. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas.
For sick kids who can't get to a computer, the company is bringing the computers to them.
A lot of the kids don't get home for Christmas, and they enjoy it. They enjoy it a lot. He enjoys it. He was ready to get out of bed.
Bell South volunteers, like Mrs. Santa, hope to bring smiles to as many hospitalized children as possible, helping them compose their letters to Cyber Santa on laptops. Kids who don't have computers will get their response from Santa the old-fashioned way, in the mail. Either way, they'll have something to cherish for all the Christmases to come. On the winter net, Chris Hussey, Channel 6 News.
Did we use you an iron wheel? Okay. You look familiar to me, like maybe you were in there at some point.
At all in filming or whether it's movie or commercially or anything, it's just the right look. And so whoever has that right look, I'm just hoping that they'll come on out. Please come out, come and see us. We'd like to make you a star.
Walk into any casino and you'll hear its trademark sound of ringing bells and dropping coins.
Money was out, but not all the facilities were ready for the anxious high rollers. Most of the machines are functioning, but electricians are still working on the wiring for others. The cafeteria and bar aren't open yet. React to turning before it interferes with freeway flow.
Success hasn't come without a couple of problems. In Carlton, Amy Cook, News 6.
With the early snow this year and a lot of it, it's the perfect weather for ice dam buildups. They can form at the edge of your roof, causing serious problems in your home.
Moisture behind the ice dam is snow, eventually melts and turns into a puddle. You actually have like a puddle of water behind that ice dam, and it works its way through the nail holes in the shingles, and that's what causes leaking inside of houses.
Now this is an ice dam. What it is that a layer of thick ice about 6 to 8 inches has formed at the edge of the roof. Now right behind it you can see the shingles, and what happens here is that the house warms up the roof and a puddle forms right behind the ice dam. What causes an ice dam is a combination of the type of roofing, ventilation, insulation, and of course, weather. The best time to prevent this is in the summer, when major construction can be completed. But if you see ice dams forming now, experts say there are some things you can do.
So the only alternative is to go up there and to continue to keep the snow off the roof.
You can do that with a shovel, but don't just let anyone up on your roof.
Sometimes having somebody take the snow off your roof causes more damage to your roof than leaving the snow on your roof and letting the ice create problems. So I would just say buyer beware.
If ice continues to build, contractors will sometimes lay heat tapes out on the roof. The heat tapes melts channels in the ice to allow the water behind to drain out. In Duluth, Angela Wang, Channel 6 News.
Jason, you play a lifeguard on Sunset Beach. Tell us a little bit about your character.
Well, it means that 75% of my wardrobe is a pair of swimming trunks, first off. No, I play Michael Bourne on this show. Michael is a lifeguard and really nice guy. He saves lives for a living. How bad can the guy be? But one of the things that a lot of people in town don't know about Michael is that Michael didn't grow up in Sunset Beach. Yeah, he grew up elsewhere in a not-so-nice neighborhood. So Michael has an edge to him. Michael wasn't always headed down the straight and narrow path. So he has this action side to him that immediately takes charge and understands the streets extremely well.
Yeah, I play Vanessa Hart on the show, and she's a go-getter reporter, newspaper reporter. And for some reason, I just can't stay out of trouble. I don't know why that is.
What is it like working on a daytime soap?
Oh, it's actually really fascinating. It's sort of like a boot camp in a way, acting boot camp, because every day you're up first thing in the morning in the studio and it's a brand new script every day. You shoot a show a day, essentially. So the soap opera world is just in some ways brutal, but it's also different from most soaps because we do so much location shooting. So in some ways it's like shooting a film. Because we're outside so much.
Take the test. You had done some work on MTV. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my goodness, who told you? I did, yeah, I started out doing music videos. You know, it was like a beginning. Everyone has to start somewhere. And it was exciting for the time, and I was always just like trying to get to where I am today.
Aaron Spelling, thanks for joining us. What in the world made you decide to put on a daytime soap opera?
I guess the truth is they asked me. I got a call from NBC, and they said, we'd like you to consider a daytime soap. And I went home and talked to my family, and my daughter Tori said, Daddy, you've got to do it. She's a soap opera addict.
Sure.
So I'm having a ball. It's a very tough chore, and I must tell you, I've been watching a lot of soaps before we started this. and the Bells and people like that who do daytime, boy, they are geniuses. It's a tough grind, but I love doing it.
It's different than regular prime time, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. For example, on Melrose Place, 90210, any of our shows, we shoot at least 7 days for an hour. Here in 7 days, we get 7 hours.
Oh, boy.
And try watching dailies on that every day. Try seeing every rough cut on that every day. Wow.
That's a lot of work. Did you know it was going to be this much work when you went into it?
No, but I love it. I'm very excited by it. I mean, I'm going to try radio next.
Yeah. Sunset Beach is hot. Some have said maybe too hot for daytime. What do you think?
Oh, I don't think so.
Darlene,
I think it's hot because we shoot at the beach. Oh, you knew I was going to say that.
Take the
I mean, it's
test.
a lot of sun, and that's hot, but and a lot of beefcake, but it's, you know, we're not doing Baywatch, and we're not doing a very late night serial with flesh and all that. Yeah. But I think the stories are so intriguing. I really think the audience will love the characters and what happens to them. But yeah, it's hot. It is hot, but I think it's hot in the best sense of the word.
Thousands, literally thousands of people tried out for the parts on Sunset Beach. Did you have anything to do with choosing the ones?
Unfortunately, hate me if you don't like them. I was the final say on all casting.
When you produce a show, I know you've got a clear understanding in your mind who you're producing for. So who's watching Sunset Beach?
I hope those people that I know so well that I meet on trains, because I don't fly, and I see them in Vegas and whenever we go out of town. And I'm the kind of nut that still, you know, when the tour bus stops at the house, I go out and talk to them and say, what do you like? I know those people, and they're friends of mine. We don't make shows for the Bel Air and Beverly Hills circuit.
Okay, well, Aaron Spelling, thank you for joining us, and good luck with Sunset Beach.
Thank you.
Number 1 is first place, My Tuck, puppy number 3. Bring puppy number 3 up, please.
My Tuck. Whoa.
That's your dog. She's dragging my earring. He does. He does. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Big congratulations. Big hand from either the winner. And for all the puppies who are here today, we have the sports car.
At about 5:30 in the morning, a man walked into Lakeside Food and Fuel, brandishing a sawed-off shotgun, demanding money.
The robbers left the store, and almost immediately we got some information that there was a suspicious pickup truck leaving the scene. With that, the officers who were responding to the area started stopping some pickup trucks.
Police first took the suspect to a hospital to check for frostbite, since he was caught without a jacket. For the employees at Lakeside Food and Fuel, the early morning robbery was a bad case of deja vu. This store was robbed just 1 week ago at about the same time, but authorities say the situations were very different.
Lakeside Food and Fuel, armed robbery.
In that robbery, January 9th, the suspect was extremely polite, as seen here, thanking the employees and telling them to have a nice day.
Don't move. I want the cash. Right now. Cash that you got. Thank you. Have a nice day, people.
When we asked employees about the current incident, they described the suspect as nasty and do not believe it's the same man. Duluth police, however, are working with Hermantown police following a similar crime Tuesday night when a man robbed the Holiday Station on Miller Trunk with a sawed-off shotgun.
It sounds very much alike, and we've been working with the Hermantown Police Department. We've been working together on these incidents, and we believe that they are associated, and right now are trying to compare notes and collect our evidence. And if we
Gritdahl says one of the main reasons police were able to apprehend the suspect was the cooperation from other pickup drivers pulled over during the search. He says the entire community can become aware of these increasing crimes and try to help prevent them.
And that is really one thing a community can do. They can just say, nope, I see something, I'm going to call, I'm not going to stand for it, it's not going to happen here.
In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, Channel 6 News.
I don't have the scorecard here, so.
I'm just extremely upset.
Ever since stop signs were removed at 12th and Hammond in Superior, people have complained about pedestrian safety. And while the scenery has changed, the problem still exists. In fact, a federal study last year showed Superior had a disproportionate amount of pedestrian vehicle accidents. The City Council opted not to make the intersection a four-way stop late last year, instead asking for a traffic control plan. The plan focuses on all Superior streets, including the Hammond corridor.
Oh, I think Hammond Avenue is very bad. And even Belknap is become real serious. It's hard to pull out on Belknap unless you're at a light.
One of the main findings in the plan, traffic enforcement during peak times is often lacking because police are in the middle of shift changes.
I live in Billings Park, and it's pretty hard to go 25 miles an hour over the Belknap Viaduct or the 21st Street Viaduct. You go 25, you got people mad behind you.
So one of the things we're going to do is hold a few officers over from the shift that's ending to stay out there until these other officers get on the road, so that we don't have any vacant areas or voids of some enforcement and attention out there.
The plan also suggests lowering fines for moving violations. Take speeding, for example. Right now, the minimum fine is $116 for even going 1 mile over the limit. That's almost double the speeding fine in Duluth. The fines are set by the state, and some officers feel if the speeding fine were lower, they would hand out more tickets.
The officers sometimes feel that 1 to 10 miles an hour over the limit really shouldn't be a $100 violation. It's a relatively minor traffic infraction.
And cheaper tickets is something many motorists would like to see.
I think it'd be nice if they would lower them. I mean, I never had a speeding ticket, but it'd just be nice.
In order for the city to bypass the state-set fines, it would have to create a municipal court. Sergeant Jarvis and the city attorney have traveled to other Wisconsin cities to study that, and Jarvis says usually the municipal court pays for itself. As for the source of many complaints, 12th and Hammond, Sergeant Jarvis has asked the state to continue a grant rewarding motorists with T-shirts for stopping at crosswalks. In addition, the new traffic control plan calls for a task force to study the entire corridor and find a safe compromise between pedestrians and drivers. In Superior, Maureen Tallarico, Channel 6 News. Tragedies like this one are all too common on snowmobile trails this year. As the popularity of the sport continues to rise, so does the number of accidents.
There are people out there who are inexperienced riders, people with, people who have a lot of money who go out and buy the biggest machine they can, go as fast as they can, and that's not the name of the game, But that's the way some people play it, and that's what happens.
Brett Johnson and his friend Tim Peterson opted to ride on the trails during the week when it's less crowded and safer.
People don't know what they have when they jump on one, they figure it's like driving a car, you hit something, might get a banged up fender, but you fly off and hurt yourself, and that's the problem we have.
Both men agree more education is needed to stop snowmobile accidents. Education that could result from increased funding from the state. Right now, there are several proposals to pump funds into snowmobile safety, including one from State Senator Bob Lassard of International Falls. Lassard wants to widen trails and even make some one-way. Other suggestions focus on increased enforcement and driver's ed, something some riders feel is lacking on today's trails.
Money given should go somewhere, to education. When I was younger, I had to take a snowmobile safety course. Right now, it doesn't mean a damn thing. I don't hear of anybody going to them,
There is no set legislation yet for lawmakers to vote on, but as the number of accidents continues to rise, so does the pressure on the state to do something to stop it. In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, Channel 6 News.
It might look like the walls of a Green Bay Packer museum, but it's actually the Four Corners Elementary School. Packer mania has spread like wildfire in northwestern Wisconsin schools. For kids of all ages, the Packers are the cool thing to talk about.
Oh, they think it's great. They keep talking about it every day, and of course then there's the kids who aren't Packer fans, but they're going to cheer for the Packers too.
At the Four Corners Elementary School, they take their football and their Green Bay Packers very seriously. At Roger Bear's school, if it can be done in Packer colors, it's being done. Green cupcakes, green Rice Krispie bars, even the Christmas trees that remain wear the colors that mean so much to these rabid fans. And the fever was present at other schools as well. A former Packer defensive back stopped at Cathedral School for a pep rally, and that sparked plenty of excitement.
Ever since I left them, they've always been my team. They always will be, regardless of what they do. Win, lose, or draw, they're still one of the finest teams in the NFL.
Cathedral School principal Roy Hamlin, who lives in Minnesota, thrilled his students by donning the ever-popular cheese head, even if he was a bit reluctant.
Well, I think the staff realized they were going to have some fun, and I became the victim because I live in Minnesota, and I'm constantly badgering them about the Minnesota Vikings, so they're getting back at me.
So what are these armchair quarterbacks predicting for the Super Bowl?
I think 38-17, or 100 or to 0.
Al the Wiz Wizbicky perhaps sums up the Packer love affair the best.
The relationship between the Packers and the fans is a bond. It's not a fan. It's a very unique relationship that exists nowhere in the NFL.
In Packerland, Jason Rice, Channel 6 News.
And the buses should be arriving very soon, but again, I'm not sure either how they're going to get through that big mob scene.
Where I look is people. I can't see anything but people. I can see the tops of some buildings, the statues that are...
There's only been one like it. There'll never be another town like Green Bay. There'll never be another team like the Green Bay Packers. And boy, the people, there's less than 100,000 people in this town. 95, 96,000 at last count.
Yeah, she started watching from birth, and I thought it would be a good idea to take her out here because I was about this age when the Super Bowl was the last time we won the Super Bowl, and I thought this was something she'd remember.
The legend of Lombardi. They were never able to just break through that, and I think possibly Mike Holmgren has broken through that now. The Lombardi era has ended officially, I believe, and I think the Mike Holmgren and Ron Wolf era has begun.
And of course, this is an extremely friendly and well-controlled crowd today. However, there are a lot of police officers on hand.
They're the essence of carefree fun. Until there's trouble, and there's been plenty of that. 24 people have died so far this year on snowmobiles, and lawmakers have run out of patience. So have law enforcers.
We'd like to think that there's just a very small minority that's goofing it up for the whole works, but I don't think that's true anymore.
But legislators aren't just taking aim this session at sleds. They're also going after jet skis. Chris Haskamp says she almost bought one until she was visiting a friend one day at her lakefront cabin.
And it can absolutely be as annoying as having 100 mosquitoes flying over your head in the middle of the night, in the dark. Have you ever had that happen?
So Haskamp thinks she's come up with just the right fly swatter for those pesky mosquitoes. Limit their hours from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Right now, it's sun up to sundown. Allow counties to close some lakes to jet skis altogether. Require that anyone who uses jet skis get training and insist on liability insurance. 2 summers ago, a woman who was sunbathing was seriously injured when a jet ski rammed her boat. Haskamp says that was one accident too many.
I'm trying to prevent other tragedies by doing it now.
If you look back in the city of Duluth in the last 5 years, I think it's fairly encouraging. It's encouraging. It should be for the people of the city to see that, yeah, there are bad things that happen. We have our homicides, we have our shootings and our major crimes, but overall the violent crime has decreased, and the property crimes, some of the thefts, some of the crimes are up. But I think overall it's been fairly steady and hasn't increased.
With snowmobiling becoming a mega industry, there are a lot more riders hitting the trails. And big business means big money, no matter what side of the trail you're on. While there's twice as many snowmobilers on Minnesota trails than last year, funding to groom the trails is stagnant. Now the DNR and snowmobiling clubs are running out of money.
Most of the clubs in our area throughout the state, some in the state are already out of money. And we will not be able to make it past February 15th without more money from them or we will be donating it, and I don't believe that's going to happen. It's too costly when we're talking $13,000. Our club doesn't have that kind of money.
It costs about $8.5 million to maintain the 18,000 miles of snowmobile trails here in the state. But the Snowmobile Trails Enforcement account has only been given $6 million. The Minnesota DNR says they're down to just grooming the trails that are the most damaged. Conservation officers fear that if trails aren't properly maintained through the season, snowmobiling safety will be compromised.
What we found happens is when the trail gets so bad, people will not go on the trail, and that's unfortunate because the trail is where they should be and it's the safest place for them to ride by far.
Snowmobiling club members and DNR officials are asking the state legislature for funding to help keep trails groomed through the winter. In Moose Lake, Angela Wang, Channel 6 News.
Well, the biggest danger is, of course, falling through, and also on Lake Superior, one of the hazards that we've had a lot in this area is that the piece of ice you're on will tend to drift off. All it takes is a good wind shift and a velocity increase, and the ice you're on will be bound for Canada or Wisconsin or other ports unknown.
Middle name? Edwards. Molly Edwards. Mother's maiden name. Oh, okay. She's 21 and a half inches. Okay. Very hairy. She's got your hair, George. Actually, I think it's Molly Sheila's. It's blonde and bald. Step in there close, George. Admire your child.
Trooper had pulled the money out and had a couple dollar bills that were completely chewed up, hanging out of his mouth. And so my husband came around to investigate a little bit more closely, and at that point discovered that Trooper had started pulling this bag of, quite a large bag of money out between our rocks.
Five-year-old Christopher McCurley and his 2-year-old brother Derek are Texans who are getting their first taste of Minnesota winters.
Derek ate one snowball last time.
He ate a snowball?
He thinking it was ice cream.
Christopher and his brother are staying at the U of M's Ronald McDonald House. Both need a bone marrow transplant to cure a rare and deadly disease that affects their immune system. After a 3-year wait, a donor was recently located for Christopher, and a bone marrow transplant saved his life.
Touchdown!
You know, he's cured now. He has no more Westcott-Aldrich syndrome, and that's the best feeling in the world. He's 100% engrafted.
Gotta ring it. Put it back in there.
But his baby brother continues to wait, and his parents prepare to endure the emotional and frustrating journey all over again.
That it just tears you down. So you have to step back from the situation, the bone marrow transplant, all the medicines, all the drugs that it takes to rebuild their immune system, and cry. And I've done that.
Finding a bone marrow match is complicated, even more complex for minority and mixed-raced children. And as time ticks away, Derek's parents pray the right donor will come forward.
My son is cured now, and now I've got one more to find the donor for, and I just would like to tell everybody to please get into the bone marrow registry. What better feeling can you have than saving somebody's life?
Both of my boys here.
Roxanne Battle, KARE 11 News, Minneapolis.
Derek should have been a girl. Yeah, I should have been a girl.